We're,
Yeah.
we're on time now, so
Yep.
let's give you the full time. So this is Tyler Davis, the status of Ngawn in South Central, or formerly known as Kuki-Chin. Over to you.
Thank you. Is my PowerPoint visible again?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for coming to my presentation. Let's just get right into it. So I already put the links in the chat, but for the benefit of anybody watching the video or something in the future, I have uploaded my slides and my updated abstract, which is different from the abstract in the conference book. So you can take a look at those by following these links. All right, so I have two aims and then a bonus aim from this presentation. The first is to kind of give a linguistic introduction to the Ngawn language. The second aim is to demonstrate that Ngawn should be classified as Northern Kuki-Chin or Northern South Central Tibeto-Burman and not Central South Central Tibeto-Burman. Say that 5 times fast. I have a bonus point in telling people how to get a free Ethnologue subscription, free as in free beer, and why as linguists we should be striving to get this free Ethnologue subscription because it helps Ethnologue too. So this is from David Peterson, his 2017 article on the Kuki-Chin subgrouping, and this is the subgrouping that I follow for this presentation. If we look here, the two main things that I want us to pay attention to are central and then peripheral. Right now, Ngawn, the language I'm presenting about, is classified as central within the Ethnologue. I'm going to give an argument as to why it should be classified as peripheral, specifically northeastern, very similar to Xizang and Thidim and Tado, and I will give evidence as to why that is. And the short answer is, as to why it is central, databases such as Ethnologue are simply encyclopedias, and they only know as much information as is previously put inside of them. So let's take a look. Ngawn is here right now. I think Ngawn should be here. So let's see why. So Ngawn is a language in which the speakers are located in northern Phalam Township of Chin State. And Leclerc gave an estimation of 18,600 speakers. That is more than Xizang, for example. Xizang around the world are only about 11,000 or so. The speakers of Ngawn are mostly bilingual in Phalam, otherwise known as Laizo Chin. Some speakers of Ngawn also speak Xizang, as their villages are very close to Xizang villages, as you'll see in a moment from the map. Some also speak Thidim, and many, of course, are fluent in Burmese. As of date, there is very little information known or available about Ngawn. If you go on Facebook, for example, there are some Ngawn Facebook groups in which Ngawn people get together and talk about different things. One that I've found is Ngawn Tutang, which means Ngawn history. And also, Ngawn has reached a landstone in getting a full New Testament and Old Testament Bible translation completed in 2015 that was done under the auspices of the Myanmar Bible Society. Other than that, you can't find too much about the Ngawn. So this map is from LSDO, which is a small NGO in Yangon that has done quite a lot of language mapping in Chin State. If I were to give an illustration, here in this area in the gray where my cursor hopefully can be seen is Galay Mute, which is in Sagaing Division. It used to be part of Chin State, now it's not. A lot of Chin people do live there. A lot of people go and get their supplies to bring back to the mountains from there. But if you cross from that border into Chin State, you'll start off at Kai Kam, which is a Xizang area, and then you're in kind of the Xizang Valley, as they call it. And then you take your car and you carefully go through all the mountains. And then once you get to about this point, the road forks and you can go south here. And it was during a time where I was visiting the village of Votla that I went with the pastor of Votla and some people down a bit south. And we passed Zongkong and went through this area, and we found the Ngawn village of Volung, which is interesting. So traveling from Votla, we found Volung, and as I was preparing data for this presentation, I tried to find it on the map, and as you can see, Volung is not there within all the villages listed in the Ngawn speaking area. And in fact, if you look at the Mimu census, which is where LSDO got all of their coordinates for the town and village names, Valung is not in the English language map or even in the English language census. I had to find it in the Burmese census on the Burmese map. And the font rendering is a bit weird, but if you squint and look past the pixels close enough, you can see that this is the Burmese spelling Balong Yua. So that's the Burmanization of Valung, Balong Yua. So this is a good case as to why linguists should know at least how to read national languages when trying to find different sources. So I kind of went back and I put this little sun where, according to this map, the village could be. I haven't been able to confirm, though. Maybe this TK Swangpi is another name for Valung or something, but I haven't been able to confirm or deny that. So hopefully in the future I'll know. To be continued. So the data that I'm using for this presentation, it came, I've been sitting on it for a while. I collected it back the 3rd of August, 2016 in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I happened to be visiting a Burmese church there. And for one weekend, a Ngawn pastor was visiting. And so I asked him if I could elicit some data from him. And he was kind enough to say yes. I was a poor student at PIOP at the time. And so he didn't ask for any money. to my great joy. And I sat down with him. I first collected about 50 words based off of Van Beek's reconstruction to try to look at how tonal patterns could be different between Ngawn and other Chin languages. But then I decided, since he had time and he was willing, I went through the entire SIL MSEAG 462 edema word list, because there were Burmese edema on the side that I could use to elicit certain things. I also got a spontaneous elicitation of a Tsura story. So anybody who's familiar with the Mizo language or Mizo folklore, Tsura is kind of a dim-witted character who always gets into trouble in one way or another. I happen to have a book of Mizo folktales with me, and he mentioned to me that he was a speaker of Mizo as a second language. So I had him quick read over a Chura story in Mizo, and then he thought for a moment and gave me a very wonderful retelling of the story in Ngawn. And sadly, because he was not free and I've not been able to get in contact with him since, I've not gotten a gloss or anything of that story, but that's on the to-do list for the future. Right, so the problem, as I said, is if you look in Ethnologue or Glottolog or any of those places for Ngawn, you will see that it's classified as Central Kuki-Chin. And why is it classified as central? Well, as I said before, these encyclopedia depend upon the data that's put into it. The only classification of Ngawn to date is that of Father André Berhaigst, as discussed in Van Beek. Father André Berhaigst was living with the Mara Chin at the time, and he had two kind of arbitrary groups, North and South. He called the Mara and the people living among the Mara as South Chin. Everybody north of that was North. So he classified the Ngawn people as North Central, along with the Zahao, Dusai, Mizo, and Dusai, otherwise known as Mizo, and the Hakka. Now this makes sense because, as I said, the Ngawn live in Phalam Township, and they are bilingual, at least nowadays they're bilingual with Phalam. So one could assume that they were central, but it's not linguistically sound in terms of classifying the language based upon sound innovation. So let's take a look at that. What makes a language central Kuki-Chin? So basically it's retention of the Proto-R. As stated by Peterson, what was presumably an original rhotic sound, it's retained in central languages such as Hakka, Mizo, Phalam. So if this were a central Kuki-Chin language, anything with the Proto-R would remain an R in the language. Whereas if it's not central, we would expect this innovation coined by Nathan Hill as Schaefer's law, which is the transformation of Proto-R to a G. So this happens in Peterson's peripheral languages. It's his term for the amalgamation of Northern and Southern Kuki-Chin languages. So we would expect this G initial, except in two languages, Sizang and Ngawn, where you have the initial R, initial proto-R being realized as a Ng, and then the final proto-R being realized as a K, or in Sizang's case, there's a further innovation to a glottal stop. But let's just say phonemically, it's still a K. So I took the Ngawn data set that I had, I just put it in Excel, and I compared all of the proto-phonemes from Kenneth van Beek's work from 2009 to these works. So my Falam source was Kartwan, also an alumnus of Payap University and a native speaker of Falam. I used my data for Sizang, and I used Khoilam Thang, a native Tidim-Chin speaker, for the Tidim data. And I put them all in a spreadsheet, and then I looked at the correspondences. So for the initials, here's what I found. So the Proto-R initial for Falam, which is a central Chin language, we see for Tustio, they either have Fir or they have Ru. So Ru being the reflection of the Proto-Ru, which I forgot to add here, sorry about that. But then in Tidim, you get the expected Gu, so different tone, but the initial is a G. But then for Sizang and Ngawn, you have the Ng. So how does Ethnologue classify Sizang? Oh, look, Sizang is classified as Northern. And why is it classified as Northern? Because proofs have been provided to Ethnologue to show that it should be classified as Northern. Classifications for Sizang have existed for quite a while, whereas there's not been, to date, any data on Ngawn besides Andre Bereich's data from way, way back when. So I can provide more examples of the proto-initial R, where the proto-lexeme here from Van Beek is Ruat for rain, and then it's Ngwa in Ngawn. We have Ra for fruit, and we have Chingna Mu for the fruit. We have Rua for bamboo plant, and Ngwa in Ngawn. We have Ram for wild animal, and Ngamsa in Ngawn. So basically, all of these proto-initial R's realized as Nga in Ngawn. So Peterson gives a pretty good explanation as to why, for example, in Sizang, they have a proto-Nga instead of a G, and he looks back at Luce, who says that there were prenasalized and non-prenasalized initials. So basically, Sizang chose preference for the prenasalized version rather than the non-prenasalized. So the G further developed into a Ng. And we, by extension, could guess that that's what also has happened with Ngawn. Interestingly enough, and Hill brings this up in 2014, certain words with the proto-R that you would expect to be Ng in Sizang are Le, and we see the same thing in Ngawn as well. So where in Falam it's Paruk for 6 people, we have Lu in Sizang, Guk in Tidim, so the G as expected. But then also in Ngawn, you have Lu. So Lu in Sizang and Lu in Ngawn. And those are the only 3 examples in this very small word list that I used with the proto-L instead of the, with the L being the reflection of the proto-R instead of the Ng. But I found it very interesting that this same pattern existed. And for the final proto-R, we have, as I said before, in Falam, which is central, you have, for example, Tir for iron, but you have Tik in Ngawn. Sizang, you have Chik, and then in Tidim, Sik. Here you have Pangpar for flower, and Pak here, and Pak in Tidim. So as predicted, with a central language like Falam, you have the R retention, whereas in Ngawn, Sizang, Tidim, you have the R innovating to a K. So to reiterate and conclude, Ngawn fits the definition of a northern/peripheral language where the proto-R is realized as a Ng initially or as a K finally. It should not be classified as central anywhere. That classification was based upon geography, not upon sound innovations. So my call to action and my bonus information, you can get a free Ethnologue subscription and not have to pay the thousands of dollars that they're now asking individuals to pay, that is if your institution doesn't provide it, by contributing to entries, just like I've written a contribution now for the Ngawn page to change it from being Central Chin to Northern Chin. What you'll do is you go to a language page and you'll see this box that says become a contributor. Then you click on learn more, and then you have a form to fill out. And if they approve it, you can start contributing to languages that you have authoritative knowledge on. And it helps if you cite sources and things in the entries that you make. And if they approve them, for every approval, you get 1 point. And then each point, once you get 1 point, it counts as 1 year of free subscription, and then half of each point carries over to the next year. This presentation is not endorsed nor sponsored by Ethnologue, by the way. So, but this is, I did this and I got the free subscription and I can see all the maps and everything now, and it's wonderful. So go do it. If you have a language that you have authoritative knowledge on, please do. Ethnologue could really use, as you can see, it could use more updated data on certain things. So what are my future plans with Ngawn? Well, I'd like to write a full phonological sketch. I have the data, I just have to do it. I would like to collect more edema though and write a full phonology, and I'd like to finish glossing and analyzing the text that I elicited years ago, and then possibly make a grammar sketch from that. But that's about it for me. So I would like to take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jim.
I'm wondering about the language name Ngawn itself. Could it be possibly from a protoform Ron, or has Proto-R merged with Proto-Engma? So
yeah, there are Proto-Engmas that are just also Proto-Eng in there. So let me actually see if I can bring up my data. Can everybody see my data, or do you still just see my presentation?
We see the
your presentation.
Okay, let me re-share my screen so you can see my data. Hold on. Okay, so I don't know how to use R and fancy things like that, so I I just did it in Excel. So if we go and we search for the Proto-Engma, right. So we see that Proto-Engma in Ngawn corresponds to Eng. So there is kind of, yeah, this merger between the Proto-R and then the Proto-Engma both merge into Eng with Ngawn. So, yeah.
great. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Yeah, Tyler, can I come in? Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, this is Hoki Pauthan from Delhi. It's
yes.
an odd hour. Yeah, it's an odd hour in Delhi, so I will not show my face. I'll be literally in audio form. So thanks for your wonderful presentation.
Here, so yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So I have two quick questions. One is, do you ever come across the presence of what we call sesquisyllabic, or what you call minor syllabic in this language, Ngawn? That is the first question. Yeah. Because what I found in most northern Kuki-Chin languages of this Manipur, northern Kuki-Chin languages lack sesquious syllable, or what we call minor syllable, which is rampantly found in southern or in especially in all Kuki-Chin languages. That is the first question to you. And the second question is a general question to all the senior linguists present there. So with regards to the classification of Kuki-Chin languages, so there has been an attempt by Professor Scott Delancey to club the old Kuki-Chin languages of Manipur as northwestern languages. So the Kuki-Chin language, the old Kuki languages of Barak Valley also exhibit the retention of Proto-R. So would it be wise to incorporate the old cookies of Barak Valley and Tripura zone into northwestern if we are to give up old Kuki-Chin in favor of the northern Kuki-Chin? This is a general question to anybody who would like to contribute. Thank you.
Okay, I'll answer the first question first. So yeah, that's a good question actually. The pronunciation of Valung, the Va in Valung, when said quickly, it sounds kind of like a sesquisyllable, but it could also, like in Sizang, for example, you hear many things like papa for mushroom, right? So you have this papa, but the pa could also be a phonological innovation in which it's the high tone that is then kind of shortened due to a syllabic rule. And this might be what's happening in Ngawn as well. As I said, I've not done a full phonological analysis yet. So that's a good question. And I'd like to look at it because sesquisyllables in Chin is something that should be documented when we do phonological analysis. But at this time, I can neither confirm nor deny that. In terms of the subgrouping, I see David is here. Do you want to talk about the Northwestern?
Okay,
thing?
quick interjection to you, Tyler. So the Valung, is it derived? The Va of Valung, is it derived from river? Because we have Badung in northern Kuki-Chin, Va or Badung corresponds to river. So is the Va of Valung derived from river? Because most of these languages have a river name starting with Va. Have you ever attempted that? Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at my data here, hold on, I do have the word for river. So the Ngawn word for river is tuipi. So that's the word for river. Va could also be, for example, the word for like to travel, like in Tidim you have vak. So it could be derived from that. It could also be like sava is the song language word for any kind of bird. So it could be that, but I don't know. I've never actually asked the meaning of Valung or any of these village names. But again, that's a good question and I'll keep it in mind for the future.
If I can comment on the other question.
Yeah,
go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. The Barak Valley languages and the Manipur Valley languages of Chandel are both in the same group that we're now calling Northwestern, at least on morphological grounds. I haven't really looked at the phonology, but morphologically they share innovations that distinguish them from everything else. And what I think the next step in trying to figure out what's going on there, so geographically, we have two sets of languages, the ones in Chandel and Manipur and the ones over in Sylhet region and Tripura. And we might hypothesize that that's two subgroups of Northwestern. But only now that Patang is starting to collect some data on the Sylhet languages is it possible to even think about this. So you and I should talk about that.
Yeah, we should be talking about it. Okay, thanks, Professor. Scott. Yeah.
David Peterson, do you want to add anything to that in answer to Paotang's question?
I don't think so at this point. Thanks.
Thank you, David.
I have a comment. This is Ken.
Yes. Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is very convincing, Tyler. Thanks so much. I haven't thought about Ngawn, So this data that you're collecting is very convincing, and I'm totally convinced that they are what we call northern. I think the reason why they are classified as central also is because they live closely with the Buol people, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so Buol speak a a dialect of Falam, and so and Ngawn also speak Falam most of them. So they are very close, and therefore I think that I did not think this before, but when they classify it, then people will think, oh, Ngawn and Buol they are talking to one another, and they must be mutually intelligible and things like that. And actually,
Yeah,
those
but they're just talking
areas,
in Palam, yeah.
yeah, and those areas, they don't need like separate languages. No, they don't need like a common language.
Well, Ngawn
They
are
have
very
common
multilingual.
languages. Yeah, they are
Ngawn people
common.
are very multilingual.
Yeah, they are common languages. They Ngawn speak to Buol in Ngawn, and Buol speak to in Buol. And so yeah, from outsider perspective, it might be the case that they are the same. That's my comment, and thank you.
No, thank you, Kenneth. You gave me the proto data.
Can I ask one question?
Yes,
Sure.
Murakami.
I'm Murakami from Kyoto University. And can you tell me the word in Gonte, the above? Is it tunga or tsunga? There's a contrast between T and tsu in northern Kuki-Chin languages. And
yes,
can you tell me?
Yes. So just a second. So
yeah, in Tado and Baipei, this is tsu. Tsunga is above. Yeah. Or
so if we
shrink is tong. Tong in other languages, and in Baipei it's kichong.
Yep. So if we look,
the contrast is there.
So if we look here, like the Ngawn data, so I'll compare two here because I formatted my spreadsheet weird. So if we go to 84 first, so go down to 84. Oh, there's not even anything there. Whoopsie. Okay, if we go to pounded rice, let's say, so 75. So we have zang for pounded rice. So that was a proto TS, and then we have a tsa in Ngawn, right? But then if we look again at the initial, and we have the word for turtle, so 120. We have dumquang. So there seemed to be some kind of a split, but it seems in Ngawn, we can expect to see this tsa. So we see here zang niap. So zang niap for rice husk. And then we see tons of other examples. So there is a split between the and the tsa. So the example you gave for above, I don't even know if I've collected that. No, that's not here. But I would be inclined from this data to assume it would be Zunga, but I don't want to proclaim that until I get more data. But thank you for your question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.